issue of sovereign wealth funds is very much of our interest at the ESADE Center for Globalization. Tonight we are receiving Chris. He will be, not presenting exactly this book, which is Sovereign Wealth Funds. There's several editions, one Asia, the other one internationally. We'll explain why. He's in some Asian countries, he's already forbidden to enter the country. So I think he has pretty interesting insights on sovereign wealth funds. So it's an increasing relevant topic worldwide. And for me, what is very interesting is that it's part of the story of the rebalancing of the shifting wealth of the nations towards emerging markets. That's why maybe those sovereign wealth funds are capturing more and more an attention over the last decade.
So what is the problem that we're trying to define with sovereign wealth funds? And the first one is, what would replace sovereign wealth funds if they were either wound down or did not exist in the first place? There's this conception many times that sovereign wealth funds are out to take over the world, or they're going to invade capital markets and things of that nature, when really, fundamentally, most of them are trying to solve a very basic economic problem, that they have large amounts of surplus capital from most of the time monetized natural resource wealth. So what do you do with that money? And in fact, most of the cases where we see that this money is not captured in a sovereign wealth fund, it quite honestly results in a lot of problems, whether it's inflation, poorly used public spending, things of that nature. And which brings me to the second point is, are sovereign wealth funds the solution? And unfortunately, they're not better investors. They don't reduce macroeconomic volatility, which most countries are heavily tied to oil in most cases. They're not good savers. And they don't expand economic development. So those are all the best things those are all the worst things about sovereign wealth funds. But the good thing that you can say about them is that they're the least bad of all known alternatives. So when we try to define sovereign wealth funds, one of the things that needs to be made abundantly clear early on is there really is no one sovereign wealth fund. There is no style. Temasek Holdings, one of the two sovereign wealth funds of Singapore, claims in their returns that they have earned an average annualized return of 17%. Now, if you hold money in the stock market, real estate, or just about any financial asset, you understand that 17% is a pretty significant return, much less to average that for 35 years. So if you can explain to me how a country runs nearly 30 consecutive years of surpluses and becomes one of the most highly indebted countries in the world, I'm willing to listen. I'm all ears. I have no explanation for this, and no one I've been able to talk to has any explanation as to how this is. If we look at this, if we look at just the list here, Singapore is more indebted than such financially stable countries as the United States, Zimbabwe, and Portugal. Okay, that is not what one would consider a ringing endorsement by any stretch of the imagination. Most sovereign wealth funds are very aware of their unique position as straddling the public and the private. So when I say equal treatment in the case of sovereign wealth funds, the first thing is to do away with sovereign immunities given the commercial nature of activities. Believe it or not, most sovereign wealth funds claim sovereign immunity. Okay? That means, for instance, that they do not pay taxes. How do we think of sovereign wealth funds within a regulatory structure? Most financial regulation is geared around how do financial institutions deal with other people's money. But as a sovereign wealth fund, they're not, in most cases, dealing with other people's money. They're dealing with their own money.
What I think is clear is to put on the table that what we are talking about, it's about our fears, about the positioning, or not to be reciprocal in terms of what, I think in your book, you talk about the changes that the Western world made the rules in the past, and now is shocked because the agents, the main players, are not Westerners anymore.
The countries owning these sovereign wealth funds are evolving. And these countries also find some uncertainties. And I would like Chris to comment on this, because who knows which will be the behavior of such funds in the future. Many of these funds share in their portfolio or have a mixed portfolio of domestic assets and foreign assets. In the case of some kind of slowdown in some of these economies, will their presence abroad will be as active as it seems to be?
I want to thank very much Elena, Ignacio, and above all Chris for coming to bring some light, some knowledge on sovereign wealth funds. Thank you, Chris. Thank you.